The boy stood behind the curtain, his small fingers curled tightly around the edge of a worn-out microphone he had borrowed from a neighbor. It was slightly too big for his hand, and every now and then it slipped, forcing him to grip it again with both hands. His heart pounded so loudly he wondered if the people outside could hear it through the thick velvet drapes. Next up, a voice announced from beyond the curtain, cheerful and loud, "We have a young talent all the way from Cebu, Philippines." A soft ripple of applause echoed from the audience. It wasn't thunderous, just polite, curious. After all, the crowd had seen countless performers already. Singers, dancers, magicians. Dreams had walked onto that stage all day long, and most had walked off unnoticed. But this boy didn't know that. All he knew was that his name had been called. "Mateo Cruz," the stagehand whispered, gently nudging him forward. Mateo swallowed hard. He was barely 12 years old, small for his age, with a thin frame that made the oversized shirt he wore hang loosely from his shoulders. His shoes were slightly scuffed, the laces uneven, and his jeans had a faint tear at the knee. He didn't look like a star. He didn't feel like one either. But somewhere deep inside him, beneath the fear and the doubt, there was something else, something louder than his racing heartbeat. A voice. Not just any voice. A voice that had carried him through long nights without electricity, through days when food was scarce, through moments when the world felt too heavy for someone so small. The music cue played, the curtain opened, and suddenly, Mateo was standing under a flood of blinding lights. The stage felt enormous, stretching out like an ocean in front of him. Beyond the lights, he could barely make out the faces of the audience, just a sea of shadows and silhouettes. But he could feel them. Hundreds of eyes, watching him. Waiting. The judges sat at their table, their expressions a mix of curiosity and mild expectation. One of them leaned forward, squinting slightly as if trying to understand how such a small boy had made it this far. "What's your name?" one of them asked. Mateo adjusted the microphone nervously. "I'm Mateo Cruz, sir." "And how old are you, Mateo?" 12. A soft murmur spread through the audience. 12. So young. "And where are you from?" "Cebu, in the Philippines." Another murmur, this one warmer. The judge smiled gently. "What are you going to sing for us today?" Mateo hesitated. For a moment, the fear came rushing back. The memories of people laughing when he first tried to sing in public. The times he was told he was too small, too shy, too ordinary. But then he remembered his mother. He remembered her tired smile after long days of work, the way she would sit quietly and listen to him sing, as if his voice could wash away all the struggles they faced. "This is for you, Mama," he whispered under his breath. He looked up. "I'm going to sing a song that means everything to me." The music began, soft, gentle, almost fragile. Mateo closed his eyes, and then, he sang. The first note floated into the air like a whisper, so soft that for a split second, it felt like it might disappear. But it didn't. It grew, it stretched, it filled the space in a way no one expected. The audience leaned forward, confusion turning into surprise. Because the voice coming from that tiny boy, it wasn't small, it was powerful, rich, emotional, deep beyond his years. Each word carried a weight that didn't belong to someone so young. It was as if every hardship, every quiet moment of longing, every unspoken dream had found its way into his voice. The judges exchanged glances. One of them raised an eyebrow. Another slowly sat up straighter. Mateo kept singing. His eyes remained closed, as if the world around him had disappeared. As if he wasn't on a stage in front of hundreds of people. As if he was back home, sitting beside his mother, singing just for her. The second verse began. This time, his voice soared higher. Stronger, clearer. It wrapped around the audience like a wave, pulling them in, leaving no room to escape. A woman in the front row placed her hand over her mouth. A man shook his head in disbelief. And one of the judges, known for being the toughest, the hardest to impress, leaned forward, his expression completely changed. Mateo hit a note. A big one. The kind of note that could break or make a performance. And he didn't just reach it. He owned it. The sound rang through the theater, pure and unwavering, sending chills down spines and raising goosebumps across arms. The audience erupted, not at the end, but in the middle of the song. Because they couldn't hold it in anymore. Cheers. gasps, applause. But Mateo didn't stop. He kept going. Because for him, this wasn't about impressing anyone. This was about telling a story. His story. The final chorus approached. The music swelled, and Mateo opened his eyes. For the first time since he started singing, he looked out at the audience. At the faces now fully visible, smiling, amazed, emotional. At the judges, who were no longer just watching, but feeling every note. And in that moment, something inside him shifted. The fear was gone. The doubt was gone. All that remained was the voice. His voice. He took a deep breath. And gave everything he had. The final notes exploded into the air, powerful and breathtaking, filling every corner of the theater with a sound so big, so overwhelming, it felt impossible that it came from someone so small. And then, silence. For 1 second, 2, 3, and then the entire room stood up. A standing ovation, thunderous applause, people cheering, shouting, clapping as if they had just witnessed something unforgettable. Because they had. Mateo stood there, frozen. He didn't understand. Not fully. All he knew was that people were standing. For him. The judges rose to their feet. One of them shook his head, laughing in disbelief. Another clapped slowly, eyes wide. And the toughest judge of all. He simply stared at Mateo, a small smile forming on his face. When the noise finally settled, the first judge spoke. Mateo. I don't even know where to begin. Mateo held the microphone tightly, his hands still trembling. That was not just good, the judge continued. That was extraordinary. The audience cheered again. Another judge leaned in. You have something very, very special. It's not just your voice, it's your heart. We felt everything. Mateo blinked, trying to hold back tears. The toughest judge spoke last. You walked onto this stage, and I thought, here we go, another kid with a dream. The audience chuckled softly, but then you sang, and you proved me completely wrong. A pause. You're not just a kid with a dream. He pointed at Mateo. You're a star. The crowd exploded once more. Mateo's eyes filled with tears. He tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Because for the first time in his life, someone believed in him. Not just his mother. Not just himself. But the world. The votes came in quickly. Yes, 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 yes. 4 yeses. Unanimous. Mateo covered his mouth, overwhelmed. He had done it. He had made it through. But the moment wasn't over yet. One of the judges leaned forward again, his hand hovering over a golden button. You know what? He said, smiling. I think the world needs to hear more of you. Right now. Mateo's heart skipped a beat. The audience began to murmur. Could it be? The judge pressed the button. Golden confetti exploded from above, raining down like shimmering stars. The audience screamed. The music blared. And Mateo stood there, frozen in the middle of it all, as golden pieces fell around him, catching in his hair, his clothes, his trembling hands. A golden buzzer, straight to the live shows. He looked up, tears streaming down his face, unable to believe what was happening. From a small boy behind a curtain, to the center of a stage filled with light, applause, and possibility. And as the confetti continued to fall, one thing became clear to everyone watching. Sometimes, the smallest voices carry the biggest dreams. And when they finally sing, the world has no choice but to listen.